This is the Module 8 test review. This is page 223. This is your last chance to watch some instructional videos before you take the Module 8 test. So take good notes, pay good attention, and let me know if you have any questions. Okay. Numbers 1 and 2 are pretty simple. They read, shade the grid and write the equivalent percent for each fraction. So these grids are a nice review of what percent means. Percent means out of 100. So we have a fraction for number 1, but it's out of 50. But what we need it to be is out of 100. So the first thing I do here is I multiply both the denominator and the numerator by 2, and I would get 38 100ths. So then what we do is we shade 38 out of 100. So that's going to be 3 whole rows plus 8 more. And then 38 out of 100 is 38%. We're going to do something very similar for that for number 2, except for we're not going to multiply by 2. In this case, we're going to multiply by 5, because once again, percent means out of 100. So we're going to multiply the denominator by 5, and we get 100. And we're going to multiply the numerator by 5. We're going to get 65. And 65 hundredths is 65%. And we're going to shade 65 squares. So that's going to be 6 rows and then 5 singles. 65 hundredths is 65%. Okay, moving on. Numbers 3 through 7. This is from section 8.2, which was percents, fractions, and decimals. The directions read, write each number in 2 equivalent forms. What that means is, for like example on number 3, if they give you 3/5 as a fraction, see how we're given a fraction here? What we're going to do is we're going to write the percent and the decimal. Here they give us a percent, we're going to write the fraction and the decimal. Here they give us a decimal, we're going to write the percent and the fraction. So that's what we're going to do each time. Okay, so 3/5. It's given to us in a fraction. We're going to go ahead and find it as a decimal and a percent. So the first thing I do is right now it's in simplest form. I'm going to unsimplify it. I'm going to make this fraction into an equivalent fraction out of 100. And if you're wondering why, I'll show you why in a minute, even though it's not actually going to be one of my answers. I think what I'll do here is actually do this one on a whiteboard. So I've got 3/5, and I'm going to unsimplify it by multiplying by 20. If I do that, I'm going to end up getting something. 5 times 20 is 100. 3 times 20 is 60. Now, the directions don't say to take a simplified fraction and write it as an unsimplified fraction. It says write it in equivalent forms. Well, look at how easy this is. 60 hundredths is the same thing as 60 in the hundredths place as a decimal. And we don't need that 0 right there, so we're just going to write it as 0.6. That's the decimal. And then we're also supposed to write it as a percent, and 60 hundredths is 60%. There we go. And number 4. Number 4 is actually pretty complicated. 62.5% is a percent with a decimal in it. What is that as a decimal? So let me go ahead and maybe draw a similarity. What is 60% as a decimal? It's 0.6. What's 65% as a decimal? It's 0.65. So what is 62.5%? Do you notice that the 6 here is always going to be in the tens place? So the 6 here is going to be in the tenths place. And then this 2 is going to be here. And what about this 5? It's going to be right here. So the decimal version of 62.5% is 0.625. And 0.625, that's 625 out of 1,000, because it's 625 in the thousands place. Now that's the fraction, but they want us to simplify it. Now this isn't as hard as you think. If we could divide these by, I don't know, 25. 25 goes into 625. 25 goes into 100 4 times. So I could do 4 times 6 to get up to 600. That's 24. Plus 1 more to get up to 25. That's 25. So if I divide this by 25, I get 25. And I can check that real quick. What is 25 times 25? It's 625. And then I'm going to divide 1,000 by 25, Well, 25 goes into just 100 4 times, so annex of 0, it's going to be 40. And I'm going to divide these by 5 to simplify it further. And I'm going to get 5 over 8. And I can prove that on a calculator as well by going 5 divided by 8. 5 divided by 8, I should get 0.625, and I do. This is one we should probably memorize. I've shown you this one actually before. 5/8 is 0 and 625 thousandths. All right, the next couple are actually much easier. Let's get rid of that. Number 5 reads 0 and 24 hundredths. Well, if you can say 0 and 24 hundredths, then you can write 24 hundredths. And if you can write 24 hundredths, then you can write 24%. And then we should also simplify 24 hundredths by dividing by 4. 24 divided by 4 is 6, and 100 divided by 4 is 25. It's 6/25. 31/50. Remember earlier when I had a fraction and I want to convert it to a decimal and a percent, I need to unsimplify it. In other words, I need to multiply it until it becomes out of 100. 50 times 2 is 100, and 31 times 2 is 62, and 62 hundredths is the same as 62 in the hundredths, and 62 hundredths is the same as 62%. All right, one word problem here, and then we're on to the next section. The word problem reads, Selma spent 7/10 of her allowance on a new backpack. What percent of her allowance did she spend? Well, you know that when you take your quizzes, if you get 7 out of 10, you know that's a 70% C. So 7/10 is 70%. All right, moving on to the bottom section. All right, so we're on 8.3, solving percent problems. And these are the ones that we want to set up as proportions, as best as we can. And we use the terms is and of to help us figure out what goes where. So for example, number 8. We're always going to have the is word is going to be the part. And the of word is going to be the whole. And remember that percent means out of 100. Okay, so we're going to use all that information to help set these up. So number 8. These are our notes over here. I'm going to go ahead and erase the 8 right here. These are our notes over here. And over here on number 8, we're going to solve. It says 12 is, remember the is the part. 12 is, that goes up top. 30% means 30 hundredths. And it says of blank, which means I don't know. So let me help you figure out why we set this up this way. 12 is the is word, and is the part, so that goes on top. And then 30% means 30 hundredths. And then the question mark is the I don't know. Now watch how easy this is. It doesn't look easy right this second, but watch how easy this is. 30 and 12 aren't compatible right now because 12 doesn't go into 30. But what if I simplify by dividing by 10? I would get 3/10. Now, can I multiply 3 to get into 12? I can. It's times 4. And if you multiply 3 times 4, you have to multiply 10 times 4. And what is 10 times 4? It's 40. That's the answer. 40 is the answer. All right, let's check out number 9. Number 9, 45%. 45% means 45 hundredths. And it says of 20 is. The of word is the bottom term. The is word is the top term, which means I don't know. Now on this one, I would go over to 100, and I would say, how do I get from 100 to 20? And I would say by dividing by 5. If you do 100 divided by 5, you would get 20. So to get my own unknown number, I also need to divide by 5. 45 divided by 5 is 9. The answer is 9. All right, moving on. 18 is, the 18 is the is word, so 18 is, and then it says blank percent, which means I don't know the percent, and the of word is 30. So 18 is blank percent of 30. Now right now, can I solve this? Does 30 go into 100? It doesn't. So we're going to try simplifying this one. And what can I simplify 18 and 30 by? Now, I could divide these just by 3. I could divide them by 6, but I could just divide by 3 as well. And watch why. If I do 30 divided by 3, I get 10, which is a great denominator. And if I do 18 divided by 3, I get 6. Now look at how easy this problem is. How do I get from 10 up to 100? Well, I multiply by 10. You do the same thing here, and you multiply 6 by 10, you get 60. What's the answer? 60 hundredths is the same as 60%. Number 11. 56 is the is word. 56 is, it says 80%, which means 80 hundredths. And then of, the of word is the second term, I don't know. So what I said earlier and what I wrote down earlier on your notes about the is word is the first word and the of word is the second word. The is the first term and the of is the second term. Helps us with these. So now, are 56 and 80 compatible? Does 56 go into 80? It does not. So I'm going to simplify by dividing by 10. Watch what happens if I divide these by 10. 80 divided by 10 is 8, and 100 divided by 10 is 10. Basically, it's the same thing as taking these zeros and crossing them off. Now just to look backwards, how do I get from 8 to 56? I multiply by 7. 8 times 7 is 56, so I need to do 10 times 7 is 70. The unknown number is 70. All right, we've got a word problem here. So it says, a pack of cinnamon-scented pencils sells for $4. What is the sales tax rate if the total cost of the pencils is $4.32? So the question is, how much tax did they pay? So this is kind of a two-part problem here. And so we're supposed to figure out the sales tax rate, but we're going to start by figuring out the sales tax. Well, it's just 32 cents, and here's why. If the pencils were $4.32, well, they're actually 4, but if you paid $4.32, how much in tax did you pay? Well, $4.32 minus 4 is 32 cents. So you paid 32 cents in tax. That's how much you paid. Well, it's 32 cents out of how much? It's 32 cents out of $4. So now what I do is I simplify, and it may not really look like these simplify, but they do. Just think about this as 32 and think about this as 40. What could I divide by? You could divide 32 and 40 each by 4. What would you get if you divide those by 4? You're going to get 0.08 over $1. And 8 cents out of $1 is 8%. 8 cents, this is like 8 out of 100. 8 cents out of $1 is 8%. That one's a little bit tricky with the decimals and all, but it's 8%. Okay, we are out of time, so we're going to skip the word problem at the end. This is the summary. So we're going to skip this one. And you have one more page to do before your test. I want you to go ahead and check out the next video for page 224. Good job. You're done with page 223.